Today I'm going to show you two tangles that work beautifully together. We're going to start with Keeko, a Zentangle Inc pattern. It's got a lovely woven look to it, and then I'm going to show you how it develops into Mak-Rah-Mee, which is a tangle by Michele Beauchamp, and she's a certified Zentangle teacher. So I'm just going to get started. I've got a kind of scrap tile. You can see it's kind of bent here, but it's just to kind of give you a quick kind of introduction into Keeko and how you build that tangle up. So I really like Keeko. It kind of reminds me of a basket weave. So I usually do, I've seen it done with 3 lines alternating in the different directions, and I've seen it with the 4 lines like I'm doing just now. So I have a slight curve to my lines, and I'm just doing these 4 lines. You can see that they're roughly the same length, and then I'm trying to replicate the same length once I've turned my tile, and I join them together like that. That is, I mean, I've seen also, just to let you know, you can do your own variation. You can have Keeko so that the lines don't touch one another, or you can have it so that they do. And then when you get to the line below the first one, you're alternating the way that the direction that you draw your lines. And you can see that I'm kind of going a bit more straight here than I was initially, but that doesn't matter. So this is a great tile to do when you're just looking to get into a bit of a rhythm and a bit of a flow. You don't really have to think too much about it other than to kind of keep count of however many lines that you're putting down. But if you have more or less lines at each different individual squarish section, it doesn't matter. And that is as complicated as Keeko gets. I'm going to show you just now, before I move on to Mak-Rah-Mee, I'm going to show you different variations that I have of Keeko. So you can see this is, I'm going to just zoom out a little bit. This was done on an opus tile, a Zentangle opus tile. And so you can see I've got Keeko here and I've got it here. And I've just used it almost as like a filler / background tangle. And I've taken each row here and I've put some graphite on the tops and bottoms, and then I've gone over in the centre with a white pastel pencil. This one here, I'm just trying to find where I've actually got my Keeko. It's down here. You can see I haven't so much shaded or highlighted individual rows. And in fact, I might even go around. I've started, the more that I've got into the Zentangle method, I have started being a lot heavier with my shading. So I might actually go in and shade this again. But you can go around the entire area of Keeko and kind of use it as kind of a pillow shading, and then you could put some white pastel pencil. I have actually done that here, but it's maybe just not quite as obvious as some other ones that I've done. And this one, we have Keeko on this one there. I think this was a project pack, that it was 4 tiles that were taped together, and I've just done this basically on my own opus tile. So that's just different ways. You can see here my shading is a little bit more dramatic in this version than the last tile that I just showed you, and then I've gone over the top with the white pastel pencil. So it's just to give you an idea of different ways that you can shade your Keeko. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put this aside because this was just for kind of demonstration. And when you're doing Mak-Rah-Mee, it basically starts in the same way as Keeko. So I'm going to do in the centre, I mean, depends on when you're doing your own Mak-Rah-Mee, you'll see at the end different versions that I've done previously. You could have yours in the centre, you could have off centre, you could have multiple knots of the kind of Keeko that I'm going to show you just now. But for the purposes of this morning, I am just going to do this just now fairly centrally on my tile, and I'm working on a tan tile. So I've got these 4 lines here vertically, and then I'm going to turn my tile and repeat that. So I am Lisa of Create and Cam with Lisa, and I'm a certified Zentangle teacher. Just going to join these ones here while I've got this tile rotated in this way. Keeko and Mak-Rah-Mee were actually tangles that were requested for me to draw or tangle. So you can see there, that's the basis of macrame. I can't remember if I said at the start, macrame was originally deconstructed by Michele Beauchamp, who is a certified Zentangle teacher. And for the purposes of macrame, once we've created these initial 4 areas of the lines, we're going to close the edges off with like a backwards C shape. And when I was requested to do this video, I know Sue requested it. I can't remember if other people have as well. I kind of thought, oh, that's a good one to do, because I haven't done it all that often. I had done it previously, but I thought, yeah, that would be a good one to demonstrate, because I had done it previously and made a mess of it and then never went back to it for a long time. But when you actually just take your time with it, it is really, really good fun. I really enjoy doing this one. So the idea from this point on is that we're going to create some loops. The loops are always going to come out of one of these straight edges. We're not going to have any loops coming out of the bits that are fastened off, for want of a better word. We're going from one straight loop to the next. It could be the next one around. We could create a loop that goes from this one all the way down to this one. There's no kind of real hard and fast rule that says which area we're going to connect to which. So I'm just taking my time, creating a loop, and I'm going to come into this one at the bottom here. So then next I'm going to just order that one on the outside. I'm trying to be fairly consistent with the width of this loop. So we're going to have the effect of various loops going in and out, and it's going to look, because of the loops, it's going to make the Keeko part in the centre, it's going to all add up to look like a knot. And one thing to say as well, I'm going to have another thread coming out of here. I'm going to do that hollyball fashion, so you know, as if it's disappearing under that first thread that we did. So you could have some of these threads just ending just like that. Also, just if this sparks a bit of inspiration for you, I'm going to create another hollyball here, as if this is coming out of the centre. And you could put a little poke root here. You could do poke root, poke leaf, or maybe a rixty would be nice in here. You could, let me see, if I come out of here, I'll do another variation. And I'll put a little muka. So basically just taking your time, because remember, there's absolutely no hurry when we're doing Zentangle. It's just about relaxing, isn't it? So this one I am going to join it in the next bit along. And each of these loops that I'm creating, I'll turn that round so that this bit's on the left hand side of my pen, because I find that a bit easier to draw that. So yeah, I'm trying to keep all of these thread widths roughly the same width. I mean, you can see this one here is a little bit thinner than this one and this one, but you know, it's just about slowing ourselves down. We're not looking for perfection. I might see if I can get another loop coming out of here. Maybe I can have this one, rather than it being a loop, I'll just have that be a thread that disappears off the page. And then I'm going to have this one. Don't really have space here, so I'm going to loop this all the way around and over here. This is a great tangle to do for, you know, practicing all of your overs and unders, because you've got your holly-baw technique. If you're not, this might be the first time that you're coming across the Zentangle method, or maybe you're just quite new to it and you don't know what the holly-baw technique is. By that, all I mean is that when you come to a line that you've previously put down on your tile, you're just lifting your pen. We call it drawing behind, but we're obviously not literally drawing. We're just imagining that this line that we're creating here, we're creating a stem or a thread, that's going to disappear under these previous ones. So that's what holly-baw fashion or drawing behind means. Holly-baw fashion and drawing behind are just the exact same thing. So I've watched quite a few different videos on macrame since I kind of was requested to do this, and I was watching Annie Reiser's video, and she had hers, I'll put a link in the description. I quite liked how she treated hers. So she used these different loops that she was creating to kind of effectively create some strings on her tile. And then from that point, she put some filler tangles in. So I've got some kind of fairly random looking little shape here. That's sort of a cross between a poke root and a poke leaf. And shall I do any more? I might have another coming off of here. And I'll have that disappearing. What we're thinking now is this could potentially be a big loop that's disappeared around here off the page. It could just be two strands that are loose, but it also could lend itself to being one big loop that's disappeared off the side of the tile. So what I'm going to do now is to bring in some pastel pencil. So if you've followed me for a while, you'll know I love purple. It's my absolute favourite colour of all time. So I'm just going in either side of each of these Keeko squares, and I'm putting just a little bit of this purple pastel pencil down here. And then doing the exact same thing on the squares that are on the other, you know, they're pointing in the other direction. And then I'm going to take the Tortillon whilst blending stump that I use for my purple, I'm just smoothing that out. I'm not dragging this colour too much into the centre of these squares because I don't want to ruin the highlighting effect that I'm going for with this. So I'm just smoothing that out just somewhat. And then I'm going to come in with my white pastel pencil. I've had to put this in one of these pencil extenders because it's actually just about that length. So it's almost not usable anymore. It has served me well. So just putting this pastel pencil just along the centres of these squares, Keeko squares. Repeating that on the other direction. And then coming in with my white pastel pencil tortillon and smoothing that out. Now you can obviously come in if you would like and darken up, you know, you could go back in with your pastel pencil if you like. I'm going to leave it just there for a minute and see what I think. Now I am going to come in with graphite pencil as well, but for now I'm going to go into I'm going to do one side of each of these strands, loops, whatever you want to call these things. Just on the one side. I mean, depends on your individual preference. You might want to do a different thing in terms of shading. You might want to put it on both sides. Like you could effectively almost like colour in the entire strand with your pastel pencil or your graphite, however you're shading. I'm just going all the way around. I had a lot of fun with this when I was playing with it again. You'll see from the tiles that I've created when I was preparing for this lesson. Doing it on different colours of tiles and working with different colours of ink and so on. Just taking your time. Remember to ease into your seat. If you're all tense, sometimes you're not even that aware of it. And just if you feel like your shoulders are up at your ears, just relax yourself off. There we go. And we've got another couple of bits here. So I'm going to come back in with my purple, it rolled away from me there, my purple blending stump. Just smoothing those lines out, pastel pencil lines. Seems to be a lot nicer outside today. We've had lots of rain in the last few days, a lot of rain. It was nice to actually have the weather dry up a bit. We were supposed to be going to a local park yesterday. They were doing an event. We did one last year. It was like a butterfly count. And this was a variation of that. It was called Damsels and Dragons. So we were supposed to be dragonfly spotting, but it ended up being cancelled. It wasn't actually cancelled because of the weather. It was cancelled because the organiser was unwell. But we said to Isla we could go and do it by ourselves, and she said no, it's too wet. She wants to stay at home. But it's just nice to not have it be so horrible all the time. I've just realised I didn't shade that muka, but I'll come back to that. So I think that's all of those lines shaded out. I'm just going to come in with this purple pastel pencil into the muka here. Just bring that all the way around. I went out on Wednesday night last week. If you followed me for a while, you may have heard me talking about my ability recently to get out into the motorway for the first time. Because even although I passed my driving test in 2006, I went through whole periods of time, like years at a time, where I hadn't driven, and I developed a phobia of driving, which I worked on, downgraded it to fear, and finally just recently got back out driving by myself, like on the motorway. So I was quite proud of myself last week. It was horrible. It was tipping it down, like just we've been describing just now, about how wet that it's actually been. But it was torrential rain. But I drove over to Newton Mearns, which is about 15 minutes away from where I live. It's where I grew up, actually. And so I was driving over there and thinking, yeah, I'm really proud of myself driving in this horrible rain. You know, you've got to get practice in all kinds of driving conditions and practice in all the elements. And then I left art club. It was really dark, really wet, and I was reversing out of the space that I had parked in, and I ended up too close to the BMW in front and next to me, and I was absolutely terrified that I was going to bash into it, which obviously I did not want to do. So in my being careful to not bash into the BMW, I drove into the well, I didn't drive into the wall, it sounds like I went full speed, but I did end up bumping the wall, which I wasn't too happy about, as you can imagine. My husband wasn't very happy either. So yeah, this morning I had to take the car to a local garage and ask how much it was going to cost to get it fixed. But the guy said it's actually not too bad. He said, you want to see some of the cars that come in here? He said, this is actually not too bad, the damage. And in fairness, I'd only damaged the plastic bit of the bumper rather than the actual metal work, which would have been worse. So we'll probably just leave the car as it is for the time being. But yeah, it was a bit of a shame the other night because I came out of art club feeling all nice and relaxed, and then I certainly did not feel relaxed after bumping into the wall. But we live and learn, don't we? So just smoothing out that white there. And I'm going to come in to these sections here where I've got like the poke root and this poke, no, this is the poke root and that's the poke leaf. Well, it's kind of a combination of the two. So I'm going to get my other Tortillon blending stump, which has got, I've been using that for the blues. You can see I've maybe gone down a bit too heavily with that because it's not blending out very much from what I have. So you don't need to be too heavy-handed with the pastel. You can always add more, but it's not always easy to smooth it out if you end up putting it down too heavily. And I'm going to add a bit of white here for highlight, and over on the top of this poke root. Blend that out. So I'm just going to add in some graphite now for a bit more. You could leave it exactly as it is. If you kind of tangle to this point and you think you're happy just with the colours, just leave it as that. But I'm just going to go in. I do like my drama, so I'm going to come in at least into the centres here. I'll see what else I feel like adding some shade to afterwards. I might put on the outsides, at least on the straight edges. I might not put on the outsides here. And let me think, I might go along, I'm not going quite as though it's touching, but it's almost touching, pencil line here. Just following those loops all the way around. Now you could do this shading, you can add graphite on both sides of each of your strands. You can add it to one side of each of the strands, you can add it to some strands, not all strands. There's loads and loads of different ways that you could shade or not shade this. There's no light source in Zentangle, so we're not having to worry about realism or anything like that. It kind of feels a bit freeing. And then around this loop. It was quite nice yesterday. I managed to get out to the park with Isla. We've got a park quite close by, and I think when she found out that the Damsels and Dragons event wasn't happening, she asked if she could go to the park, so we got along there for a while. I'm just going to put a little bit of pencil in there just to kind of add to the illusion of that stem disappearing into these berry and leaf shapes. And then I'm going to come in with my tortillon that I've got for my black pencil, my graphite pencil. I don't actually know if I got one. Yes, I do. It's a bit blunt, but I have one. So I'm just coming round here and just gently smoothing this out. Maybe looks like I'm going side to side on camera, but it's quite small circular motion that I'm doing. Just going all the way along the length of that line. So yeah, Isla had her dollies with her, or babies as she calls them. She recently got a double dolls buggy. She'd been asking for one for ages, and she'd been really good, so we said, right, we'll get you one of these double buggies as a wee reward for being so well behaved. And so she's been taking that everywhere. It's very cute. She puts the babies to bed, and she tells us to not talk too loudly in case we wake our babies up. And at one point yesterday, she was swaddling her babies in their blankets. She was being so gentle and loving, putting them down gently and everything. And I said to her, do you think you want to be a mummy when you grow up? And she said, nah. I said, oh, you seem to really want to look after your babies that you have just now. And she said, well, I'm not going to have triplets. That would be a bit of a faff. So she's not wrong, but she just made me laugh the way that she said that. That would be such a faff. I'm going to go around. You can go around all the way around the poke root, or part of the way around the poke root. I'm just going to go partially around it. And then here. And we'll come in and smooth out the graphite in the centre here. And then just smoothing out the bits at the outer straight edges. So I'm just coming in. This is something that you can choose to do or not do. I'm just restating these lines. I've just made that a wee bit heavier than I intended to. What I might do, because that was a bit of a mistake, I'll just repeat that mistake on all sides. By making it look as if I was adding some weighting deliberately. So all that I was doing there was just redefining those lines, because they get a bit faded sometimes when you start adding the pastel pencil and the graphite. So like I say, you can choose to do that or not do that. Whatever you feel like you would like to do or not do on your own tile. Oops. Now that bit there, I'm just going to leave that just as it is. It just kind of looks more like a line that has character rather than a blooper. Well, I think so anyway. I am going to go around the outside of each of these lines as well. Again, you don't need to do this. Just taking my time and tracing over those original lines that I created. And this to me is so relaxing, because you're not having to work out anything. You're just literally retracing your original lines that you had put down. So I find this really relaxing. Nice and slow. You might want to see what you think. If you go over just one side of each strand, that might create a different effect rather than redefining, both sides. It's just different ways that you can get a different look for your tiles. Maybe you could do it one way the first time and another way the next time that you do it. Nearly there. And I don't know why, I've just realised that I've been pulling the pen, like not pulling the pen, pushing the pen, I should really say, away from me. The way that I'm doing it just now, drawing towards me, is the way that I feel the most comfortable. I feel like I've got more control of the pen when I draw in towards my body, rather than this, you know, where I'm drawing away from me. I don't have as much control over the pen that way. But just whatever, I mean, it might be different for you. You might feel that you do have more control when you're pushing the pen away from you, or maybe you're drawing one side to another. Just whatever makes you feel more relaxed. And you can see that I went over a couple of these bits. I went outside the line, but I actually think that just adds a wee bit more of a quirk to this tangle. So I'm not getting too fixated on the fact that I went outside of my lines. There we go. I think we've just got 2 strands to go now. Follow this loop around. Just turning my tile as I go, both for comfort and to help draw the lines a bit more easily. And like I say, you know, I'm accepting that some of these lines aren't quite as perfect. They look a bit more quirky, but I'm embracing that. So I don't know if I have mentioned in my last video or last couple of videos that I'm going to be doing Inktober. Are any of you doing Inktober? Have you got plans to do that? Actually, if I have my tile close by, I do. I can show you in a minute. I can show you a preview of some of the tangles that are going to be included in Inktober tangles. And you can see if you kind of think you might like to join in, because I'm going to certainly be tangling along. So I'm just putting my chop here. And I'm going to, this is just a choice. You don't have to do this. This is not a standard chop thing that people do. I'm just putting a little bit of that pastel pencil in and smoothing that out a little bit. So there we have macrame, and I'm going to show you some other variations. Actually, I've realised that I've not entirely smoothed a couple of bits out, so just where those stems disappear into the berry or leaf shapes, I'm just smoothing that graphite out a touch. Oh, and I don't think I went round here again with my pen, so I'm going to do that. So what I've got here is a few different tiles that I had done previously. So this is today's tile, and then here's another one. This is similar to the way that Annie Reiser had it in her video. Like she had I think it was a tile this kind of size, and she had the centre, and then, you know, she had lots of areas where she was going to be able to draw other filler tangles inside of. And you can see that I've, instead of having all purple, I've alternated the purple and the teal in these different sections here. This tangle, I'm trying to decide whether this is macrame or not. It certainly looks like a tangulation of it, and you can see, like, in the centre, it's just some of the macrame areas are lengthened out, they're extended out, and then they've sprouted into poke root and poke leaf. And I cannot remember for the life of me who actually demonstrated this. This was not one of my ideas. I did follow along with somebody's video somewhere. So if you happen to recognise this and you know who demonstrated how to do this tangulation, then do let me know in the comments, please. I would love to know. I didn't actually write. You can see by my chop, it's actually an old chop that I have. I did this macrame where I have 4 different sets of the knots, and you can see that I've not quite finished this because I've got some areas that I've shaded around, and I've shaded inside the strands, and then I've got other strands where I haven't really done anything with it yet, but you can see where I'm going with that. This one I really enjoyed. So I've come in here with regular colouring pencil, but it doesn't kind of show up as intensely because it's on the black paper. I've used these loops as string areas, and I've tangled prantom in here, and I've got some moon pie round the edges. I have actually gone around the outsides of these loops of the macrame. I've gone around the edges there and on top of the moon pie with some graphite, but it's not quite as dramatic of a shade as I want it to be, and I'm not quite finished this page anyway, this tile anyway. I just wanted to show you that. This is another one that's not quite finished. You can see Isla had pinched my tile, and she's coloured on it. I think she's got it on the back. No, that's a different one on the back. But this was, Isla had run away with my tile. So that's just when I was having a bit of a play around with it. And then this one, just a kind of slight background to this tile. I had been seeing butterflies everywhere. I don't know why. I think maybe I've heard that it can be a good year. Sometimes you have a better year for butterflies than others. I know I'm not the only one. I seem to see butterflies everywhere at the minute, and was folding up some washing the other day, and something flitted out of the basket as I was folding everything up, and it was a butterfly. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll do, I had initially planned to do this lesson to create not this string. I was going to do another string. So I found this while I was doing my macrame. This was Ilse Lucker, I think the person is called. I'm not sure if that's their name, but this was not, again, it was not my inspiration of putting the macrame and doing the loops. I may still use a butterfly shape, you know, as a string, and then do my tangling on the inside of it. But that's what I came up with as my macrame butterfly. So I thought that was quite a cute idea. And I was thinking initially, if I had done the butterfly string, you could have fescue coming out for the, are they called antennae? I don't know. Maybe I should know that. But I don't know the anatomy of a butterfly, I'm afraid. So anyway, I have so enjoyed tangling macrame today. I hope you've enjoyed following along. Hope you feel inspired. If you do feel nice and calm, relaxed and inspired, I'd love if you could give me a wee like, please, on the video. Even subscribe to the channel if you aren't already subscribed. And thank you so much for all of your support. I did notice that there's a new feature on YouTube where you can hype somebody's channel, and my channel has been hyped. So thank you so much if you have hyped my videos, and I will be back next week with another video. So thank you so much for joining in, and I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Bye. I did it again. I switched off my camera and stopped filming, and then realised that I hadn't shown the page that I was talking about where I've been doing my Inktober Tangles prep. So this is the page here, and this is, I kind of alluded recently, I think, in my videos to the fact that I feel like if I have too many tangles on the one piece of paper, I feel everything gets too busy and there's too much going on, which is why I am not sure that I would complete Inktober Tangles in this kind of fashion this year. However, saying that, I have been kind of playing around with each of the individual tangles. I feel this one here, I think this is called Cochombros, which I love. I love the actual tangle and the shape of it. I just feel I've done this far too big in comparison with the size of the rest of the tangles that are on here. What I will say though is I keep telling myself to trust the process, and a lot of this looks a bit disjointed at the minute, but like once you start kind of, I've got some festoon here, which is for day one of Inktober Tangles, and I've put festoon over here. You try to repeat tangles in different areas. This one, which is called Shogle, I think, I've started putting that over here. I've got Shattuck going behind a few different ones here. This is Cochombros. So when you start repeating, and I've got this is Toodles by Zentangle, it's over here as well. I've got Mirth repeated in Pangea. So yeah, there's just like, the more that I am filling this piece of paper in, the less disjointed it all feels, although it does still feel disjointed a bit at this point in time to me. But I just wanted to show you what tangles are going to be included in Inktober Tangles. I think Stephanie Jennifer has pulled together a really, really good list. I'm really looking forward to doing this challenge this year. So I'm just going to be tangling as I did last year. I've got my tiles all prepped. So these are my Inktober Tangles tiles. I will do one tangle each day on one of these bijou tiles. And then, you know, if I do any other side tiles, because I think it might be good to have 2 or 3 of the days in one tile, I will certainly share them on my social media and in my YouTube posts. But I'm just back on just now, just to show you, because I did mention this in my video before. So I just wanted to actually show you and not just leave you hanging. So yeah, thank you so much again for following along, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye.